first time using this hardware. I think that's just about enough vamping. So now comes the part of the intro wherein I actually do the intro. So I'm going to say, hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So, it is the month of July 2024, the very end of July 2024 to be more specific. And it is once again that very special time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
It's going great. You know, there's so many good things in the world. There's so many bad things in the world, but I would say this is one of the few great things in the world is our monthly collaboration here. So I'm glad to be back, Trevor. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. This was kind of hastily put together. I'm really glad that you hit me up because this is one of my favorite things that I do for the show every month. And I think it would be kind of a nightmare to try to do one of these by myself. So thank you for joining me today.
Always a
Now,
pleasure.
thanks, man. I'm glad you're here. Now, dear listeners and hopefully viewers, if you aren't familiar with how these episodes tend to work, generally we come at things with sort of an overarching theme, kind of unifying the topic of discussion. So this month, Brad had the idea, so I'm throwing you under the bus, Brad. This was all you. If this is a shitty episode, it's your fault. It's his fault. The finger goes that way. That's right.
Obviously.
I have to reorient myself. So Brad's idea this month was to talk about space movies, just vaguely space oriented movies, or at least that's how I interpreted it. But I come to realize now, having done some pregame chat with Brad, that maybe you had something else in mind. By the way, the name of this episode, the title, our alliterative title, is Cosmic Cinema. We got 2 C's in there. So, Brad, would you care to clarify what you had in mind when it came to our cosmic cinema discussion today?
Well, I mean, specifically, I was thinking there are movies that take place on other planets or movies where aliens visit this planet. And I said, no, we're doing space movies. We've got to be specific. We have to be exact. And if there's not a scene in outer space, then it's a no-go for me. Because I can think of many, well, maybe not many, but at least a few sci-fi movies that I was looking at on my shelf. And I said, that's a sci-fi movie. We have scenes on other planets, but I don't think we have a specific scene in space or on a spaceship. So I said, nope, have to exclude that one, and we will do another themed month of interplanetary movies in the future. But for me, this is space and space alone.
Okay, so you heard it there, folks. Brad is talking about specifically films which at least feature sequences or shots, I guess. Does it have to be just like a shot, or does the whole ass movie have to take place in outside of a planetary atmosphere? Is that how far we're taking this, Brad?
No, no,
Because
no,
if
no.
so, I don't have one of these picks, Brad.
No,
I'm
no, no.
sorry.
As long as there's a scene where we are in outer space, like you can't just be like looking up at the stars. Can't just be like,
Okay.
oh, look at
Okay.
But if our characters, our scene, our setting is at least in space for, I would say it just has to be one scene, and we're good.
One scene, one major shot, like a hero shot of something. Okay, I think I can follow along with that. To answer a question that popped up in the chat here from Starship Men, uh, does Independence Day count? By Brad's logic, yes, it does. There are shots that happen outside of Earth's atmosphere in that film. For fuck's sake, it opens, I believe, with the moon, like a shadow creeping over the moon. So yes, Independence Day would count in this case. Congrats! Hopefully, I don't have a hell of a time trying to find picks. This is new information to me, information that would have been useful to me yesterday,
Well,
but I'm just
clearly,
getting it now.
Clearly, you know Independence Day better than me because I was gonna give that a hard buzz. I was like, absolutely not.
What are you
But
biased against Adam Baldwin or
no,
Randy Quaid or some shit?
I haven't seen that movie in a while, so I
Oh,
forgot about those moments. But yes, if those scenes you described are in the movie, then yes, that does count.
yes, those shots in fact are in that movie. So yes, Independence Day would count. I don't actually, surprisingly, I don't own Independence Day, despite all the movies you see behind me here, and despite all the movies Brad has behind him. Do you have Independence Day?
I don't. I
Yeah.
don't.
What the fuck? What kind of Americans are we? It's the month of July. What the
I don't.
hell?
I don't think it has a 4K release, does it?
I think it might.
Well, then there's no
I think it might.
excuse. There's no
Well,
excuse
because
then.
I like that movie. It was one of the like earlier big summer blockbuster movies that I have very fond memories of going out to the theater to see. Largely because the ad campaign of it was so like enigmatic. I didn't even know what the fuck it was. It was called ID4 to me when I saw it when I was a little kid. So I didn't even know what it was. I just knew that everyone was going to see it, and so my parents took us, and it was fucking awesome. Eagle One,
Yeah.
Fox Three. That forevermore. That's what me and my brother would shout at each other when we were playing with our toys. Eagle One, Fox Three.
And it does have a 4K release, so there's no excuse. I don't know why I don't have it.
Yeah, and as Starship Men point out here, the climax does in fact take place in a big ass spaceship, which is outside of Earth's atmosphere. So that is a space sequence. So wow, we just got a whole 5 minute discussion out of a movie neither of us own. So, with that being said, how about we actually get to some picks here? As is customary, I will do my hosting duty here and promptly toss Brad directly in the path of the oncoming bus, as I do every month, and ask that, hey, Brad, how about you be the first one to share a cosmic cinema pick?
Well, did we want to? You had mentioned just getting something out of the way first. Should we do that, or should we just not even bother with that?
By the way, this podcast slash live stream is guest starring apparently Santino,
Santino.
Who is a regular co-host or regular guest on Brad's podcast, the Cinema Speak podcast. Definitely check it out. It's way better than my
No,
podcast.
not at all. Not at all. But don't be modest.
But yo, Santino, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, you can stick around for the whole thing. So, I'm sorry, Brad. What were you saying?
Did we want to get the ones out of the way that we had mentioned earlier, or did we want to not do that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good call. So I had mentioned that I wanted to get some stuff out of the way. Santino is teasing some Cinema Speak. He's teasing some Cinema Speak inside baseball by teasing a 3-hour episode this week that won't drop until tomorrow. But thanks for the heads up. I know what I'm doing with my morning tomorrow. I'm just going to go ahead and share the titles that both Brad and I knew that we would probably have things to say about, but I don't want to devote a whole ass pick to them, being as we have talked about them countless times on across various other podcasts. Maybe check them out; they're pretty good. So I'll just go ahead and share those. Both Brad and I are very hyped about the upcoming release of Fede Alvarez's Alien Romulus. So I have here Prometheus on 4K, the Alien Anthology box on Blu-ray, Aliens, the brand like pretty new 4K from James Cameron, and Alien Covenant on 4K. So the Alien movies, the Xenomorph films, probably won't be talking about them at length today, or at least I won't. But I just figured I'd share those, being as I'm sure people would be expecting those to be part of any sort of space film discussion. Those were just some ones I wanted to toss out there before we even get to the bonus round during the wrap up of the episode. How about you, Brad? Did you have any that you wanted to, like, any housekeeping you wanted to do?
Yeah, I've got those as well. I'll just say I have the Steelbook for Alien Covenant,
Ooh, very nice.
which is a 4K, I believe.
It's got the Billy Crudup chest burster on the cover.
Yeah, there you and very.
Spoilers, folks. Billy Crudup has that thingy come out of him at a certain point in that movie.
Yep. But haven't got the Aliens 4K yet, but I will be getting that soon because I just cashed in on some swag bucks this week. So looking forward to splurging a little bit.
I like to nickname those toilet bucks. bucks that you earn on the toilet.
Hey, what better way to spend my free time there, right?
Yo, any way you can. Any which way you can, man. Any way that gets you Blu-rays. So, yeah, as I said, Brad is going to be the first to give us a cosmic pick or a cosmic cinema pick. This, I guess, will be our tone setter. Um, I was really worried that I would pick one right off the bat that gets me disqualified. So I'm glad you're going first.
Well, I'll go with this one, and it's a movie I haven't seen in a long time, but I really liked it when I was, middle schoolish age, high schoolish age. And I still think, even though I haven't watched it in a while, it's still held, in a decently high regard in my mind, even though the guy who directed it, I think has been canceled. So I guess maybe that brings it down a little bit. No, but this is the movie Serenity, the Firefly continuation movie, which I actually really did like the television show Firefly. And that's something else. I haven't watched that show in a long time, but I liked the premise of it. I liked the world building of it. And at the time, Josh Whedon's shtick hadn't gotten old yet. And I mean, maybe for some people it hasn't gotten old. I don't know, but I certainly think at the time it felt very fresh, and his humor and his dialogue was very exciting and fun to watch. And I do think that it was a fun show, and when they made a movie out of it, I was I was pretty excited, and I think the movie is quite good. And in terms of like, television show being made into a movie, it's got to be one of the better examples of it. I don't know if I'd say it's like the best, but it certainly has to be one of the better ones. And I think it is a really solid ending to the show. And it's pretty crazy that this was like a full on like studio film. It had a must have had a pretty big budget, I think. And like, it's pretty crazy that it was, a show that got canceled after one season, and somehow they were able to convince these studio executives to sign a big enough check to actually make like a big sci-fi, hoping to be a blockbuster out of it. I think the movie ended up flopping. Like I don't think it did that well. So, um, I mean, clearly the audience for both the series and the movie aren't as big as the internet would maybe hope. But no, I think this is it's a fun sci-fi movie, and I think it's not one that stands on its own. Like I think you kind of have to see the show at least, or have a little bit of familiarity with the characters. But no, it's a good one. I really like this one. So, Serenity, boom.
Very nice. I have no connection to Firefly or Serenity, but is the way you described it, is it kind of like an epilogue or like a final chapter to that single season of television?
Yeah, I mean, like I especially how the movie ends. Um, Apparently they continue it in the comics. I don't know, but based on how the movie ends, it would be tough to um keep it going after this because spoiler alert, not everybody survives.
Oh,
Which I actually like that they have the cojones to kill off what might be the most fan favorite character. So, kind of impressed by that.
yeah. I mean, I have said it on other podcasts, and as somebody who enjoys making stories of my own and stuff, like I really like. I like when there's a destination in mind. I like when a story has an ending. Like that
Hmm.
doesn't bother me. Like I don't form such strong connections with characters or narratives that it like that I'm insistent that it perpetuate past a certain point. It's like if the story is over, then it's time to close the book and move on. So actually, I don't mind that, and that's part of the attraction, or at least for me anyway. To that is knowing that it was just a single season and a movie, and apparently some comics that Santino is letting us know they actually continued the story in a different medium. Uh, Oh, we got a comment from Dario. That's always uninteresting when the main or popular gets waxed. So he's disagreeing with you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, well, I don't want to spoil. I don't want to say who dies, but I would say not the main. And it's not the main character, but it's
Yeah.
It's a fan favorite side character, but I see the point. I see the point.
Yeah, I have a lot of people in my orbit that are really big fans of Serenity and of Firefly and stuff. I know it was very popular among a, as you said, like maybe not a hugely mainstream group, like a hugely mainstream fan base, but the people who loved it really, really fucking love it. And forevermore, a lot of the cast members of it kind of have the hearts of those people, like
Mm-hmm.
Nathan Fillion in particular, and I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation probably, but Morena Baccarin. I know she's a prolific television actress. Funny enough, I had to track down some footage of her from Serenity for an edit that I did for the Red Cow Arcade / Red Cow Entertainment channel just this week because I mentioned her in Serenity. I didn't know that going in. I was like, oh shit, they mentioned Serenity. I better look up some clips of that lady from that show. Uh, and I gotta say, some of the footage looked pretty neat. Like it looked like a pretty decent show. And I remember when that movie came out, among my circle of friends who were really into that, it made them very happy. Like everybody who was a fan of the show, it seemed to work for them. Like it seemed to be a fine continuation of it or extension of it. Yeah. Santino says, great show that got fuck by the higher ups.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. I think if I'm remembering right now, it's been a while since I was like passionate about Firefly, but I'm pretty sure like when they were airing the show, the pilot was the last episode they aired.
Mm.
Which seems, a little backwards, I guess. I think because
A little ass backwards.
it was the pilot, I believe, is like a 2-part episode. And I don't know, I can't remember the reasoning, but they were just like, we don't want to commit our first episode to be a 2-hour premiere that, nobody's going to stick around for that. So they're like, we'll have episode 2 be the first episode. And basically, after the show got canceled, they were like, all right, you can show the 2-hour pilot now. So episodes were told out of order, and like, it's no surprise that it got canceled. But no, it was a cool little, and I like that the show was episodic. It was just this crew going to different planets, doing different missions, and it was fun. It good characters. Yeah, I really liked it, and I do think the movie has some good action. Really cool, memorable space battle too. Like like a big space battle can sometimes be hard to do in an interesting way, but they actually do some pretty cool stuff in this one. So, yeah, I mean, if you got 13 hours to kill to watch the series, and then another 2 hours, if you got 15 hours of free time, I highly recommend checking out all this stuff.
Well, I mean, 13 hours, that's small numbers for a man like Santino.
Yeah, true.
Speaking of, we have a very long comment from Santino. Yeah, some of the episodes got aired out of order. There are characters that they talk like then know them. Then an episode or two later, you see the episode where they meet. I don't know how common a phenomenon that is in today's television and streaming environment, but I do know that it was it was very common for producers to rearrange the episode airings for ratings. Basically, they were chasing
Hmm.
ratings. Santino may not get this reference, probably not, being as I assume he's a little younger than I am. But there were some Gundam shows in Japan that infamously aired out of order. Where I think the fifth episode of V Gundam was slotted as the first. Like it was intended from a narrative standpoint to be the fifth episode, but the producers and Bandai, the toy company who basically lords over that whole franchise, insisted that the show is called Gundam. There is going to be a Gundam in your Gundam show, yes. So they insisted the Gundam had to be in the first episode that aired on television to debut the new show. So they flipped
Oh
the
no, no.
guest starring Santino. By the way, a rallying cry, something that I yell in public to publicly humiliate the girlfriend. Whenever I see somebody wearing a big floppy straw hat, I point and I yell, "One Piece, 1 year!" And I always think of Santino when I do it. And it's not a thing, folks. It's not a hashtag or anything like that. It's basically an inside joke between 2, 3 people if you include Brad and me. But
Yeah.
it's a thing that I actually do, and it brings me joy. Uh, by the way, Dario is correcting himself. I find it interesting, not uninteresting. Anyway, Firefly was awesome, and the movie was too. So he's his autocorrect got in the way there. So that being said, I just talked about some animes, largely to appease the Santinos in the room, of which there's one, but he's the only one that counts. I'm glad my legacy to annoy people lives on when I'm not even there. Yes, it does, Santino. Trust and believe. Being as I just talked about some animes, again, to appease the Santino in the room, I may as well keep doing that. Let's keep it rolling, Brad. So I'm going to talk about something I honestly don't have that much to talk. I don't have much to say about it, but I know Santino might. He might pop for this. So I have in my hand something from the X-Men franchise on
Hmm.
4K that I mean, again, I just edited a video for Deadpool and Wolverine for the Red Cow channel. So I have X-Men and Fox superhero movies on the mind. I may as well talk about one of the very last ones in the form of X-Men Dark Phoenix, or sometimes simply referred to as Dark Phoenix. This is kind of notable for being like I think officially the first like X-Men film to feature space, um, which was always something that the comic book fans in the audience were always anticipating, because historically in the comic books, especially like back in the 80s, but throughout the history of the X-Men comics, there's always been a little bit of a space connection. Um, so it was just kind of expected that like the movie surely will get there eventually. I think people were crossing their fingers that that might happen around the time of the Last Stand, because it's like, oh, that second X-Men film ended by teasing the Phoenix. It's like when we think Phoenix, it's like we think Shi'ar, we think space, and they got Brett Ratner to direct that third one, and we didn't do space. And then like a whole ass decade passes, and now we have X-Men Dark Phoenix, which is not a it's not a space themed film, but it does open with a space action sequence, and in fact, the cosmic force of the Phoenix hails from space, and that whole first action sequence of the movie takes place outside of Earth's atmosphere.
It passes the test.
It passes the test. Okay, so I haven't bungled it on my first pick. Um, as Santino comments here, the train fight is awesome. I would agree. I think the train fight is awesome. I believe the story goes it was a hasty reshoot. It had something to do with another Marvel movie, I think, like an MCU movie, because this is not an MCU proper movie. They hadn't merged yet. Um, I think it had something to do with the original planned finale of the movie being both kind of boring, but also like dangerously similar to another large scale action movie that was coming out very close to it. So I could be wrong, but they may have gotten some of the 87 North slash 8711 people to like kind of hastily put together the action sequence that closes out this movie. Um, and they did a great job. It does look a little bit more chintzy than the rest of the movie. You can tell like maybe the camera equipment or maybe the sets that they were shooting on, or maybe some of the post production was a little bit more hastily thrown together than the rest of it. It just there's a certain visual polish that's slightly amiss during some of the interior shots of the action sequence on the train, but the choreography is great. And also, it's kind of fun getting to see the X Men cut loose in that manner. I believe this was post Logan and probably post Deadpool as well. So audiences had gotten a taste for X Men slash mutant action, with an R rating attached to it. And there's a certain level of like savagery and creativity that you can get into with an R rating that you simply can't with a PG-13. And I think there was maybe some understanding with the filmmakers on this one, where it's like, we should just go balls out. Like let's make all the bad guys just aliens, and then have it be okay for them to just kill them, like treat them as robots, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's like a Transformers movie where it's like the horrible fucked up shit that is happening to these characters is only getting past the ratings board because they're big robots and not people. If any of this shit happened to people, it'd be the most gruesome, fucked up shit you'd ever seen. But
Yikes.
I am probably in the minority in saying that I don't mind this movie. I think it's okay.
I'm with you, bud. I think it's I mean, it's not great. I think I gave it a 3, but no, I think it's far from the worst.
Yeah, no, I think on the whole it's a fine middle of the road X-Men movie. It helps when you have Michael Fassbender and some of the other folks in this movie still showing up. Like uh, Jennifer Mystique, she's been phoning it in for like several years by this point when it comes to this one. But on the whole, I think it's a pretty good one. It also has a troubled production history, which is kind of incredible. Where it's like I think I'm just going to say his name, Brian Singer. Who shall not be named, bad person, confirmed bad person. That's also a connection, folks, between our two picks. Brad's first pick and mine. Both have affiliations with bad people in
We picked
Hollywood.
2 canceled directors to kick this off. Great. Great
Yeah,
start.
I did it intentionally. I was like, Brad's picking a canceled guy. I may as well pick a canceled guy too. This one actually isn't directed by Brian Singer, although I think he was planned, like he was scheduled to. And then
Oh yeah, I'm
the
sure.
troubles happened. Things started to become public. The allegations started. So I think the studio excused him. I think he fled to Israel or something. Might still be there. Who knows? I don't know. I don't care. Bad person though. But this is directed by Simon Kinberg, who is largely a writer. And it stands to reason that he probably didn't really do a lot of directing on this movie, but thankfully we had a good cast and a very good second unit team to, you know, plug in the holes in the ship, plug up the holes in the ship. And what we got, I think, is a fine X-Men movie. So yeah, that was Dark Phoenix. It does happen. It does have a prologue that takes place in space, so it counts.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no, it definitely counts. Yeah, you're in the clear. You don't
yeah.
need to argue this one.
By the way, Dario from the Red Cow Discord, he points out that the X-Men movies, I find them so awesome and disappointing simultaneously. It took so long to see the Danger Room. Come on! Rogue never flies? What the fuck? I mean, yeah, as somebody who grew up watching the X-Men cartoon and who would not learn until many years later when I started reading the comics that, you know, Rogue traditionally doesn't have the Captain Marvel shit going on. Like, every time I was watching those movies when I was a kid, when I was young, like in the year 2000 or whatever, I was like, why the fuck is Rogue just kind of blah? Like, why isn't she flying and punching shit? And it's like, oh, traditionally Rogue doesn't do that. Santino also points out there are a lot of holes in that ship, and he's not wrong. But I think the movie as a whole is, I like it better than Apocalypse. Brad might agree, he might disagree with me on that because you recently re-reviewed that one, I believe.
I'd still give Apocalypse the edge, I think,
Okay.
but they're not too far off. They're not. I brought Apocalypse down to earth a little bit. Let's be honest.
Would you give it like a 4.5 or 5 out of 5?
No.
We won't talk
not
about
that
that.
high. Not that, we don't need to get there.
Okay, well, I'll pass the baton back to you, Brad. What is your next cosmic cinema pick?
Well, should I bring up another canceled director? Should we just keep the train going?
I
No.
don't know if I can hang with you on that one.
No.
That would be really difficult. We could try.
No, how about not a canceled director, but a director who people have been saying is in director jail, maybe. Although I have heard I think his next project is in the works, so I don't think he was in director's jail for long. But I have a movie from the great director Damien Chazelle.
Ooh.
I have First Man.
Oh.
And the reason I say he is in director's jail, not that he did anything wrong, but Babylon was a big box office bomb.
Yeah.
And this one was not this was kind of a disappointment as well. I think this movie's okay. I've only seen it in theaters. I haven't watched the 4K yet, but I don't know. It's good. Like, I think the score is incredible. Really great score. And there are like elements of it that I like, but for some reason it just didn't come together for me. Like, I think one issue I had was Ryan Gosling, like, not saying he gave a bad performance, but he does the whole quiet, stoic thing, and that's like just almost like become at the time, especially like post Drive, Only God Forgives. It was like he was Place Beyond the Pines. Like that was like all he was doing, and it just kind of felt like at this point it was like, all right, this is a little, it's a little tired. Like maybe we could have, you know, if we wanted to have Neil Neil Armstrong, almost said Neil Young. If we wanted to have Neil Young be the quiet
Shooting up
stoic,
when he's going up in the
yeah.
rocket.
We wanted to have him be the quiet stoic guy. Maybe cast somebody who hasn't done that in so many movies, so it's become like almost a joke at this point. And but I still like it. Just in terms of recent space movies, I think it's just a little just like okay, like I don't know. I need to rewatch it because it's just like nothing really like popped for me except for the score. And like the whole thing of like him, you know, using the moon landing as a metaphor almost for him getting over the, I believe it was the death of his daughter. um I like that in theory. It was just a little like obvious, a little corny when he like takes his daughter's rattle or whatever it was. I don't even remember what it was, but it's like as soon as like they like point out that rattle or shoe or bonnet or whatever the hell it was, I don't even remember. But as soon as they point out that's like a big thing, I'm like, all right, obviously he's taking that up to the moon, obviously. And it was a little cornball when it did happen, but um, yeah, I would say it's probably my least favorite Damien Chazelle movie, which um makes me think like I like the guy, but he's a little bit of a one trick pony too. Because I love Whiplash, La La Land, and Babylon, all very music centric. Babylon not quite as much, but certainly the other two. And I'm like, is this guy only good at directing movies centering around jazz music? Because this feels like the one where he really kind of stepped out a little bit, and I would say it's his weakest effort. But maybe that's just me. I remember when this came out, people, there was a lot there. Not everybody loved it, but there was some people who were really singing its praises and saying like, we're not acknowledging how good this movie is. Like people will look at this 20 years from now and be like, how did we overlook this? And I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't rewatched it, but
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself. Damien Chazelle though does seem like, especially from a technical standpoint, like his editing on Whiplash. Oof, that is a fucking film. Like Whiplash is great. But just like he seems to be an immensely talented director in a lot of regards. I haven't seen. He's only made a few films, but I haven't seen any other than Whiplash, I believe. But there's a lot of. I know La La Land is slightly divisive, but everybody again praises the technical aspect of it, just the filmmaking. Um, First Man, I've also heard is somewhat divisive, where there's some people where they do the I don't get it thing with it, where it's I don't quite know what this was supposed to be. I've heard it praised for its technical accomplishments and whatnot. I did hear that there's something to do with like the abject terror involved in taking on that endeavor, and the kind of person it took to to do what Neil Armstrong did. Um, I have heard that the movie kind of explores that a little bit. That sounded fascinating to me. I would like to check it out. What what year did that one come out? Because I think what Ad Astra I think came out pretty close to it. Correct?
yeah, I think this was 2017. That might have been 18, maybe even 19.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen either, but they're both space oriented films. But Babylon, I really want to see, mostly because of you, Brad. Mostly because of the things that you were saying about it. It sounded like you really enjoyed it. Um,
Yeah, that one was divisive as well, but I mean it's a little, it's over long for sure, but I don't have an issue with that. I would say the only thing I really wasn't sold on with Babylon was the very ending, but the ride there I thought was great.
I'm trying, like, without having seen the guy's movies, it's hard for me to construct this, but maybe you can help me out with it. I'm trying to think if like there's a certain aspect of music that he's attempting to explore across his entire filmography, because I want to say it's not specifically music, because he's talked about astronauts, he's talked about filmmaking, and he's talked about musicians, and aspiring like musical talent or whatever. Because Whiplash is about like squeezing perfection out of a person. It's about performance. It's about like sharpening one to a fine edge. First Man is about exceptionalism, also in some regard, where it's like you had to be a special person to get assigned that task, to be the first person to set foot on the moon. They wouldn't just let anybody do that. Um, La La Land, I don't know the plot of that one, but perhaps there's something in there as well about some form of like exceptionalism or some form of striving or reaching for some sort of perfection or ideal or something. Babylon, isn't that the doesn't that take place like in the transition into like the talkie period of Hollywood or whatever?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so maybe there's something to do with like perfecting the craft of silent filmmaking or something in the twilight years of that particular art form. I don't know. I haven't seen it. But anyway, like directors always have tendencies. They always have things that they just can't seem to not reach for in their films. Like, I mean, look at Scorsese. He's always like, at least especially early in his filmography, there was a lot of exploration of kind of what it means to be a dude, kind of like that sort of stuff. And of course, Spielberg has his father, his dad thing, where there's always some sort of drama involving father figures in a lot of his movies. But yeah, I would love to check out the rest of his filmography, mostly because it's small at the moment, but also because it seems like he gets nominated for Best Picture every other time he makes a movie. So I'd say he's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotta say, I'll be curious to see what he does next, because Babylon was a huge fail at the box office. But
Yeah, I mean that does happen, but hey, these people they keep going. I mean, was it Robert Eggers? Doesn't he have a huge profile movie on the horizon?
oh yeah, Nosferatu, yeah,
Correct. Yeah, and The Northman tanked. That movie did not do well, as far as I recall.
yeah, it did. I don't think it was as bad as Babylon though. Babylon
No,
was
no,
like
no, 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 not on the same
epically
level.
bad.
Yeah, yeah,
Like we're
but
talking
these.
Ishtar.
That's a movie I'd actually like to see, just
Yeah.
because of that reputation. That and the is it a Michael Cimino? Whatever's Cimino, the director of Deer Hunter. He had that one movie that completely blew up his fucking career.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I forget the
It
name off
killed
the top of my head.
the 70s auteur era or whatever.
Yes, 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 yes. I would love to watch that movie. Is it Michael Cimino, or I forget his name exactly, but he did
Yeah,
Deer
however you
Hunter,
say it. Yeah, yeah.
and he did a western that completely just demolished his career, his reputation, and as Brad said, basically closed the book on the 70s auteur period of Hollywood.
Is it
Santino contributes Quentin Tarantino loves feet. Lol.
exactly.
Thanks for that. That was relevant.
That's his tendency. That's his tendency.
Yes. That's that. Oh
Um
yeah, good call. That is his
is it
tendency.
is it Heaven's Gate? Is that
Heaven's Gate. Yeah, I think you're
okay?
right. I think you're right. Thank
That's
you.
also the name of the cult, right?
Yeah, it
Okay.
makes for a tough Google.
All
Ah,
right.
shit. So you did Firstman, the Firstman. So should what am I gonna do? Okay, so I'm gonna hastily grab something here, and part of the reason I'm making these picks is because just for variety, but also you talked about a movie where people wear spacesuits, where we got people doing moonwalk type shit. Not the dance moves, but actual literal moonwalks. So I don't think I actually have that many movies where people don spacesuits and stuff. But I have one in my hand that I mean, it's on the fucking cover, so it's easy mode in terms of like, is this a space movie? It's like, yeah, I think it is. So I'm gonna go with this one. I have in my hand here on 4K, from Sony, I believe. Uh, Life, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. It passes. See passe.
From what I remember, it does pass. But I don't remember much, but I think it does pass.
Yeah, I seem to recall you didn't like this one. I
It was
thought,
okay.
yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I wouldn't. I think I'm just like a half step above okay. Like I don't love this movie or anything, but I think it's pretty good. And this movie does. I can tell you straight up, it does take place. It takes place on a fucking space station. For fuck's sake, it is a space ass movie. And I think the opening shots are of outside of Earth's atmosphere. They're catching a probe that's flying past the space station. We have a contribution from Santino here saying, "Ending is fucked up." Yes, it is. It's probably the most memorable aspect of the film.
That's right.
Maybe the reason why the whole thing got greenlit, honestly, because it is quite the ending. Um, I like this movie for the most part. It's directed by Daniel Espinosa, who is a Chilean Swedish director. That's an interesting combo. I don't know how much of a cultural affiliation Chile and Sweden have, but I do know that he's made films with Joel Kinnaman in his native Sweden. But I think he's an Ayer, Brad. I think he's a David Ayer, where it's like he did like one good thing, he did like one cool thing, and we're forevermore just kind of giving him credit for it. Where it's like he just keeps making not great movies, and it's just like he's just coasting off of that because David
What
Ayer hasn't made good shit in a while.
what's the great thing this guy's done?
I wouldn't say it's great, but I do know that he did do what I assume was a pretty big hit with Joel Kinnaman in Sweden, and he did a Safe House is a movie that I also quite like.
I know I some people like that movie. I think I want to say my buddy Matt is a well, maybe not. He's never logged it.
Yeah,
Maybe there's another one that I'm thinking of is with Denzel. This is Denzel, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's Denzel and Ryan Reynolds connection. Ryan Reynolds is also in this, and in fact, this movie is written by two of Ryan Reynolds' stooges, like his standbys, who seemingly write most of his movies. I wasn't aware of that until I looked this movie up just a few minutes ago. But yeah, Safe House, I've always really liked. I think it's a fairly exceptional spy thriller of its era, not universally, but like at the time in like the post Bourne era of spy thrillers. I think it stood out from the rest. I think it had a certain edge to it that was really neat. It also gets bonus points for its I think it was South Africa was the filming location, or at least where the story takes place anyway. It has an interesting texture to it. The dynamic between Ryan Reynolds and Denzel Washington is pretty cool, and also the fucking fist fight between Joel Kinnaman and Ryan Reynolds at the end of the movie was exceptionally brutal for its time. Like it was really well put together, and it was really funny because I don't think Joel Kinnaman was a known quantity in the U.S. at the time, so he shows up for like one scene in that movie. But now he's not a household name by any means, but he's gone on to bigger and better things. Um, but yeah, this movie Life is a little bit of a alien adjacent kind of movie. It is in fact about an extraterrestrial organism, and my main issue with it is that the a lot of the early going ons of the plot involve the evolution of the monster, but it kind of peters out at a certain point. The thing stops changing, and then I start to lose interest because the things that it does early in the movie are legitimately shocking. And Daniel Espinosa does seem to have he does have like an even hand when it comes to directing like tense, protracted action sequences. He's very good at balancing tension because there's a couple of like chase sequences in this movie that I found like actually kind of harrowing. There's a sequence where a woman is drowning in her spacesuit that I thought was pretty effective. There's some stuff involving Ryan Reynolds in the opening act of the movie that's pretty interesting. And of course, the ending sticks the landing, but kind of the whole middle of the movie just like loses me a little bit. Started out with a pretty interesting premise for the monster, but they didn't carry it all the way through to the end. A little bit of a disappointment in that regard. Funny enough, trivia factoid: apparently, a lot of people thought this was a Venom movie, where they weren't explicitly saying that this is the movie that introduces the symbiote, the Venom symbiote, to the Spider-Man films because this was a Sony production, and it there was some visual cues in the advertising for the movie that had people barking up that particular tree. Ended up working out for Sony in that it generated some buzz about the movie, but it has nothing to do with that. It's just a funny coincidence. But yeah, I think this is an all right movie. Um, I,
Yeah,
I would watch it again.
I wasn't crazy about the design of the creature from what I remember. It was kind of just like, I don't know, kind of lame. It almost felt like flubber or something from what I remember. It was
I
not
was
very threatening.
Yeah, it's interesting because they chose to go with a not especially aggressive design for it,
Yeah.
where like it doesn't have a discernible like facial structure to it, so it doesn't have that relatability that you would get from like a traditional terrestrial predator or something. Um, but like the way it moves and stuff, it's intentionally supposed to be kind of beautiful in the way it moves in some ways, but that doesn't translate very well to threatening. I think if they had really dialed up the gore, like they kind of play with that a little bit in the early goings ons in the movie. Like they do hint at some nasty fucking shit that the thing can do, but they don't follow through with it. Like if this was a really gory, fucked up movie, I think that would have played a lot better because you could have that interplay, that juxtaposition where it's like this beautiful thing that looks like a I don't know a jellyfish or something like at the bottom of the ocean that's kind of mystifying to watch move, and then it gets hold of you and it rips your fucking face off or something. But no, it doesn't really do that. Um, and also, like I said, the evolution of it kind of halts about halfway through the movie, and it just ceases to be as interesting as it was in the early goings, which is unfortunate. So they started out good, they ended well, but the whole middle to me, it's like didn't quite get it. Uh, but it's a premise that if I ran Hollywood or something, I could probably have a lot of fun with that. Like I think it's a killer premise in a lot of ways. Just they need to figure out that middle act.
I mean, it's basically Alien, right? Like it's, kind of just one of those
One of those,
creature
yeah.
on a spaceship. And I like that. Like,
Yeah, so do I. I mean, there's a reason I own it. It's
okay, all
because I
right.
like that formula. I'm not turned off by the repetition of it. I like seeing different iterations of the same shit different day.
Whatever turns you on, man. You do
Okay,
you.
well, that's enough out of me about life. So I'll pass it back to you, Brad. What is your next cosmic cinema pick?
Oh boy, what do I want to do here? Let's go with
Oh boy.
uh
I'm gonna take your
let's
single away.
let's do one. Let's do one that I was gonna do one that I've only seen once again, but I just did that. So let's do one that I have seen many times. I can actually talk about, even though it's a very obvious pick. And I'd be shocked if you didn't have this in your collection. Absolutely shocked. Maybe you don't have it. I don't know. I have Interstellar. Interstellar.
I
Of
don't have it.
course. You don't have Interstellar?
I don't.
Dude. You
I
are
don't
gonna get
own that
the
many Nolan movies, honestly.
fanboys coming for you. Maybe this is viral. You're trying to go viral on this.
Hey, I have a whole bunch of Chinese military propaganda movies, man. That's my lane.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'll say I own 2 copies of this movie. I love it so much. I got the 4K and the um Target or maybe Walmart exclusive Steelbook Blu-ray when it first came out.
Ooh,
This
very
is when I was
nice.
still into the Steelbook thing. But no, a lot of people love Interstellar. Like
Hmm.
I know some people say it's their favorite Nolan. I think it's very good. I do really like it. I just there's just some minor things that kind of just, snowball up, and it's just like, it ain't, it's not a 5 for me. It ain't a 5. All right. I know a lot of people, this is their favorite Nolan. It's not quite there yet. And maybe I'll force feed it. I don't know. But I mean, the big one that go to that I think is just like, if it was out of the movie, I could maybe go 5. But the whole Jessica Chastain throwing her papers in the air and yelling Eureka.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
every time that
Yeah.
happens, I'm just like,
Yeah.
why? But I do like there's some great ideas, some great scenes and moments, like standout emotional moments. Just by the end of the movie, I don't know. I just get to the end of the movie, I feel like the like action scenes, the sci-fi, spectacle wasn't quite. big enough for me. Like, I don't know, there's just something that holds it back. I'm just not quite like head over heels in love with it, but I do really like it. And I love the world building. I love the ideas in it, like the Earth, um, like in the future, and like how certain, um, like what is it? I think it's they have so much corn. I think that's all they eat is corn. I can't remember, but um, like just some interesting sci-fi ideas, and it's a good one. It's a beautiful looking movie, and I think it's a great movie. It's just not my top tier Nolan.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I know a lot of people put the Prestige very high on their list as far as favorite Nolans go. Inception as well. I know is kind of a fan favorite. Maybe your favorite. Not sure about that.
I think if I had to pick one, I would go Inception. It's a
Yeah,
little bit of a there's some nostalgia there, seeing it 4 times in theaters. The
that'll
force
do
feed
it.
has just
The
the force
force
feed
speed.
it started while the force feed was happening while it was in theaters, and it started at a 5, so it's just been continually going up and up.
Yeah, to clarify, folks, on Brad's podcast, the Cinema Speak podcast, to force feed is to what choke down a movie so many times that the star rating starts to go up after a while.
Yeah, it's just if there's a movie you want to love it more than you do, you just have to keep watching it until you get to that point. You just have to force it. You have to force feed it.
Yeah, if you're serious about it, when you hit the credits, you just go back to the menu and restart it.
Yeah. Oh,
Just put on a pot of coffee and make it happen that day.
I've got several force feeds in action right now. I got Dune Part 2 force
Okay.
feeding, Deep Red, Videodrome to a certain extent, although that one is pretty much already
I
we're
was
already
about to
almost
say, you
we're
probably
about
already
fed.
love that.
Yeah, I do love it, but it ain't a 5 yet. It ain't a 5. When it gets to a 5, that's the force feed is complete. We're
All
almost
the
there.
balance is restored to the universe.
But you have to be honest. You can't lie. You have to be honest with yourself.
Oh yeah, no. Any review I've posted in my letterbox, any star rating I've been giving has been honest.
Mhm.
I go with speak from the heart, man.
Gotta do it.
I also write obscenely long reviews for really shitty Scott Adkins movies. It's actually become one of my favorite pastimes is justifying the purchase. Like I just wasted an hour and a half of my life watching this pile of shit. I'm gonna tear it a new one via text.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
It's fun. I really enjoy it. It's a fun writing exercise for me. But yeah, Interstellar, I saw in the theater, and that's the only time I've ever seen it. Yeah, Brad just made a face. I hurt
Wow.
him on some
No,
level.
you're all right.
You're all right. You're all right.
Um,
Yeah,
I just want to say that for me, that I think other than the very emotional scenes, which I think are great, I'd say probably the best aspect of the movie is the time dilation planet idea, which is pretty incredible. I love that idea and like the
that
execution
was
of that.
that was really cool. The robot too.
The robot, yeah, yeah.
The robot, the design of it, the way it achieves locomotion and stuff. Like it's a really nifty design that is very fitting for his particular design aesthetic. Like it feels like a Nolan robot. Um, but yeah, the time dilation thing that was a big new concept that I think they handled very well because it's not a new concept, but it's not one that is often explored in mainstream, film production or television or whatever. So it was something that warranted explanation. The only other time I'd encountered it, honestly, was in the form of an anime from the '80s called Gunbuster, where it factors in very, very important. It's very important to the plot and is explained to you quite well in that as well as the consequences of it, the really fucked up nature of kind of having your existence, your reality move at a different pace than your loved ones.
Hmm.
Gunbuster handled that really, really well. Funny enough, I don't remember if it's directed by entirely, but it's like presided over by Hideaki Anno, who's the Japanese like animation director and filmmaker who's been doing all the Shin movies as of late. So you've encountered his work, but that was like a really, really early project of his, and he's really into those big, crazy concepts, like exploring that kind of stuff. But I thought they handled it really well in Interstellar. I don't remember the movie especially well, but I do remember the technical side of the filmmaking was really incredible. The the bookcase stuff, the look of that, I'm still not quite sure how I feel about that. But it's a very strange, very abstract concept that I think that particular presentation of it was very novel, and it didn't feel out of place, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I do know that like there was some chatter about like the emotionality of the filmmaking and of the storytelling. Like Nolan seems to be that kind of guy. Like he seems to listen to his critics, because I know that that was a criticism of his earlier works. Was people were saying that that was a missing piece of the puzzle. That his work is great, but there's just a little bit lacking in the drama department. So he's like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna get Anne Hathaway and make her cry, and gonna get Matthew McConaughey and make him cry. We're gonna make everybody in this movie fucking cry."
Mm-hmm.
And same goes for like the Batman movies. Like the action is too choppy, the editing is all fucked up in Batman Begins. You get to the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises, it's like, not anymore. It's like, I heard you, I changed it. How is that? So that's Nolan's a very fascinating filmmaker. Like his stuff is so readily explorable. Like it just feels like his films are tailor made to be over examined by every fucking idiot on the internet. You don't have to have a fucking film degree. You can spend your whole life just like picking apart every frame of his movies and have a really good time doing it.
Yeah, and there's something about them too where like they are very, in my opinion, rewatchable. It's always like,
Yes.
yeah, I can go back and do another dip on, Interstellar. I'm ready for another dip on Inception. I mean, I've watched Inception in the theaters. I've watched it on Blu-ray, 4K, DVD, in Fortnite. Like I've
Yeah,
seen
that's
it
right.
all.
That's right.
I've seen it all.
Yeah, Brad went to a Fortnite event where everybody was they were on trampolines or something,
Well,
or they
first
kept
let's
putting
first
trampolines under you.
first of all, this was during the height of COVID, so I had
Yes.
nothing better to do. Let's
Yes.
make this clear first of all.
Set the stage.
But no, and I don't play Fortnite, but at the time my buddy did, and he was like, "Hey, they're starting to show concerts in Fortnite and movies, and they're going to show Inception." I'm like, "Let's do it." And it was wild. People throwing tomatoes at the screen and shooting you while you're watching the movie, and yeah, throwing trampolines on you. But when they what is it when they first get into that first dream and it's raining and there's the tank or whatever, the train going down the street, it was pretty cool how everybody in my lobby, at least, they were, everyone's goofing around and that scene happens and everybody stops and is looking up at the screen. Like everybody stopped and actually started watching it. It was like, wow, Nolan can even pull in these Fortnite players. That's how much of a master he is.
That's really cool, actually. Like it's just the whole room shut up and acknowledged that this is a fucking film. Appreciate
Yeah, yeah,
it,
it was
just
good.
for a few seconds.
Yep,
That's cool.
yep. So,
Uh, but yeah, no, Nolan's everybody knows he's a great filmmaker, and Interstellar, I want to say, is a great film. I just unfortunately don't remember it all that well, but I mean, it's a very obvious pick for a cosmic cinema discussion. So thanks for bringing that, because I don't have it.
gotta pick it up and do the force feed.
Yeah, yeah, my God, I should give it another look. Actually, I don't know if the girlfriend's seen it, but she has a science background. She's into physics. She's into chemistry. She would probably be into it. So I'll have to ask her. Maybe she hasn't seen it. That'd be a good excuse to give it another go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just gonna grab what's in front of me, because why not? Actually, know what? You know what? We're gonna keep the weird train rolling, Brad. We're doing it. Let's do some weird shit that we haven't talked about before.
All right.
That's what I'm leaning towards. So I apologize if anybody cares, all three of yous, about the quality of my picks, but I'm kind of intentionally picking bad
Oh,
movies at this point, just to vary the topics of discussion, just to see what else we can get out of this. Because Brad and I have been doing this for a while, and we only acquire movies at a steady clip. Like, we don't like buy movies all the fucking time. Like, we got day jobs, motherfucker. We got bills to pay. We can't buy movies all the fucking time. So our collections don't expand exponentially, is what I'm saying, from month to month. So I'm gonna cheat. First cheat of the
oh
podcast.
boy. Get the
So
buzzer ready.
maybe. So I have an actual pick and then two picks that are tangentially connected to it. So I have here in my hands a really chintzy Blu-ray from Morgan Creek and Warner Brothers of Soldier, starring Kurt Russell. And as you can see, space is in the background on the cover art, and there are, in fact, shots that occur, sequences that occur outside of a planetary atmosphere. We do have spaceships traveling through outer space. I would say that qualifies.
All right.
Space is on the cover, Brad. You see stars? Okay, okay.
I'll give you
And
that
now
one.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Soldier, the fine film, the fine Oscar winning film, Soldier, directed by Paul Anderson, not yet Paul W.S. Anderson.
Mm.
Yes, that Paul W.S. Anderson, the Resident Evil guy. This is an early film of his. Soldier apparently is supposed to have a connection to Blade Runner, and by extension, Blade Runner 2049. Now, the thing goes that apparently there was an attempt to have them take place in the same universe, and one of the spinner police aerial vehicles, the cop cars from the first Blade Runner, from Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, apparently they have a prop of one of them in one of the junkyard scenes in Soldier. So I'm actually not talking about Blade Runner. I'm mostly just talking about Soldier, but that's a thing that you can look it up. Apparently, there was an attempt made to like make this somehow an extension of the same fictional universe. Um, so this movie, Brad, I guess I should ask you: have you seen Soldier?
No, but that title has certainly got me interested.
I hope you're fucking joking. It's about as bare bones as it gets. This movie I saw at a friend's house, and his parents, his dad was ex-military, so maybe the title was why he rented it, because like nobody had any enthusiasm for this movie. As far as I know, nobody fucking saw this movie. It's not beloved.
I never even heard of it.
Man, you're missing out. Soldier is it's actually a decent watch. I kind of like it. It's not great. It does at times feel like a Paul W.S. Anderson movie. This is post Mortal Kombat for him. He does have tendencies. He does like martial arts in his films. He does like bombastic action. He does like kind of campy stuff in his movies sometimes. Um, Soldier is about like a future scenario where there's a like super ultra hardcore soldier training program where they basically take children and from the cradle put them in training programs through their entire life, and so they're from birth trained to be soldiers. And Kurt Russell, in a hilarious opening montage in the movie, we get to see him go from childhood to adulthood. But when I say hilarious, the funny part of it comes in the form of when he's an adult and they're showing his career as a soldier. It comes in the form of this long panning shot where every time the camera goes behind an object, he's on a new battlefield shooting new people. One of which happens in a planet without an atmosphere, so he's wearing a spacesuit. But it's just him like walking from left to right, just like mowing people down across 3 decades in like across 3 different planets or whatever. For some reason, it's just really funny looking to me. Gary Busey's in this one. He's a lot of fun in it. Who was the other fella that was in this one? Fuck, I don't see his name, but a British actor who we both like, who plays the villain in the Patriot. is in this.
Jason
Jason
Isaacs.
Isaacs. Thank you.
Ah,
We got it at the same time. Jinx, you owe me a soda. Uh, Jason Isaacs is in this, and he's playing kind of like a sniveling coward character. It does need to be mentioned that Event Horizon, Jason Isaacs was also in that, same director, so they must have been affiliated in some manner. Um, Jason Scott Lee plays like the chief heavy in this. Do you know who that is, Brad?
not off the top of my head, no.
He plays a voice in Lilo and Stitch. Being as you're a Disney household, I'm sure you've seen that one at least once. And also, he played Bruce Lee in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. He bears no resemblance to Bruce Lee, but we claim him. My family claims him because he's from Hawaii, as far as I recall. Him and Tia Carrera, who's also in Lilo and Stitch. He like really bulked up for this movie and shaved his head and the whole bit to play the heavy in this one. It's kind of a good performance. It's interesting because the whole shtick with his character is that he's like a bred in a lab, like he's a genetic soldier. So he was like bred in a lab and like genetically altered, whereas it's him. It's the new hotness versus old and busted. Kurt Russell's the old and busted. So the idea is it's like the soldier trained from birth versus the one who's bred in a lab. It's kind of like a replacement for this school of thought when it comes to like training their military force in the fiction of this movie. But the way that they demonstrate that is that from a physical standpoint, Jason Scott Lee is younger, bigger, stronger, faster, but he's kind of a dipshit. So like he has all these botches throughout the movie that are like kind of like they're not endearing, but it's just like I guess that is a way to like illustrate like the difference between them. That's like he has these other tools, so he doesn't need these other tools that this guy who is older and slower has to rely on guile and trickery and stuff. And I clearly I have some sort of affinity for this movie. I saw it at a friend's house when I was like 12, 13 years old. I've always thought it was pretty good. It's basically a Rambo movie in a lot of ways. And Kurt Russell is borderline mute throughout the whole movie. Like you could count on probably two hands the number of words he says in it, honestly. So yeah, I would love to talk about this on the podcast someday. There's a lot of shit ass movies that I want to talk about on the podcast. I just can't find a good opportunity, Brad.
Well, you get a little taste of it here, at least.
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to the thing I posted today. Probably not, but I did a catching up on Blu-ray by myself, and Phantoms came out on 4K this month. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's based on a Dean Koontz novel, apparently, that I haven't read. But it's in a similar camp. Like I don't like Phantoms, but there's something about it that makes me want to talk about it. Like it's bad in a particular way that makes me want to get into it. And I was saying on that podcast, it's like, man, that's some shit that Brad should watch and get back to me on because it's not good. I would never defend it.
Let's do it. I'll read the book, dude. I'll read the book and watch the movie. I'll go all in.
All right. Well, do you have anything to say about Soldier? Because I was just rolling there for a minute.
I mean, not really. I everything I've learned about it, I've learned in the last 5 minutes. So.
Well, look up the trailer for it because the rock and roll music that plays over the trailer, I remember being like really cringy, like in a late '90s kind of way. I should do that. I should look up the trailer after we're done. If I had a better streaming setup, I would just play it on the show. But you know,
I gotta say though, you mentioned Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah,
I don't think those would count in my eyes. Is there any scenes
in your eyes? No. I think you would be right. Like according to Brad's rules, where we have to have scenes that take place outside of Earth. In the Blade Runner movies, we talk about outside of Earth. We talk about other planets and colonies and stuff many times, but I don't think we ever actually cut to them at any point.
This guy we're talking about space movies. He pulls out a movie that takes place on Earth. Huh? What?
Hey, I said Soldier was the main pick.
All right.
I just pulled those out because I wanted to whip out my film brain dick for everybody to see. Like, did you know that this piece of shit movie is connected to one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. Did you know that?
I mean,
Did you
that is
know
cool.
that?
That is cool. That is cool. I'll give you that. That is
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, connections, revolutions. So that was my pick. Do you want to go one more, Brad, or are you tapped out?
I could maybe go one more.
All right, I'll let
Yeah.
you have the last pick then, and then we can
Question is,
proceed to the speed
what
round.
what is the last pick? That's the question. That's what are we feeling? We going? Should we do a? We,
2001.
oh yeah. How the hell did I miss that one? Where is that?
Fifth Element,
I'm
Star Wars.
Should I go franchise? Should we do franchise? Let's do franchise. Let's do franchise.
I mean, it depends on what kind of discussion you want to have, Brad. Because I pulled out Soldier, and you had fuck all to say about it. So if you want to pull one of those, if you want to pull a Space Giallo or something that I don't have any fucking thing to say about, you can do that. Just know that I won't have anything to say about it.
I'm worried about that 2001. I see it over there. Yeah, okay, I see it. Okay, but I did.
It's there. It's still there.
It's there. So let's do franchise. Let's do Star Trek, which I am not the biggest Trekkie in the world, but I do own a good amount of the movies. I guess I have here. I've got on 4K the 2009 Star Trek. I have on Blu-ray Star Trek Into Darkness. Don't have Star Trek. Oh, I do have Star Trek Beyond. Yes. Yeah, Star
I
Trek
was about to
Beyond.
say you gotta complete that trilogy.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah.
It's a totally different fucking movie, but you gotta complete the trilogy.
I have only out of the original um group of movies, series, whatever you want to call it. I only have Star Trek.
Thanks, Dario. Sorry to interrupt you, but thank you,
Nope.
Dario. Thanks for
Thanks
stopping
for
by, man.
watching.
Appreciate it.
I only have Wrath of Khan, but I have from Best Buy the
Super duper director's cut
director's cut with a nice little belt on it. Like
it's got an obi. It's got a sash.
yeah. And then I have, of course, my personal favorite, Star Trek: The Next Generation motion picture collection. I'm joking, of course. These movies are not for me, but
I'm surprised you have that on your shelf. You
well,
who does not like single clamshells for extensive collections.
Well, I don't have too much of an issue with it, especially when I believe you have them all on their own disc. Yes, they all have their own disc, and they're all under the Star Trek banner, so that I don't have any issues with that. I think
So it's more like multi packs where it's like
yeah,
like Blade and Daredevil and Elektra all in one
that's
clamshell.
gross.
Yeah,
Very
that's
gross.
disgusting. I agree.
Absolutely. So this I don't really have much of an issue with. And yeah, I've really never watched. I think I can maybe safely say I've never watched a single solitary second of any Star Trek TV show. Never. I don't think. Could be wrong, but I don't think so.
To replicate your facial move. Wow.
Listen, no thanks, but God bless. Not for me. So
I haven't heard that in a minute, by the way. It's been a while since I heard that one.
It's been a little bit. Instead of watching the shows, I just say I'm just going to do the movies, and I have seen, I believe, every single Star Trek feature film. So I have committed to that. And they're a mixed bag, but I like the classic thing of the original series, the original crew, the one good followed by one bad, followed by one, I generally agree with that sentiment. I don't know, the Next Generation movies, not super crazy about. I can see like where the show would maybe be good because I do think the characters are pretty solid. I like Picard, but I don't think the movies are that great. And the reboot trilogy I think is pretty good actually. I mean I know some people were critical of it when it came out, especially because it was just like they were like, this isn't Star Trek, this is just Star Wars. They just put the Star Trek, whatever. I guess I like Star Wars better, so sue me. But no, I think they were pretty good. So yeah, I not my favorite franchise by any means, but one that certainly has its place in media history. I actually really like um what's the Star Trek 6? The one that's not
Is that
directed by Shatner.
is that Undiscovered Country?
Yeah, the one that the
The
Wrath of
Cold
Khan
War
guy
one?
did do. Is that
I think that was it. It's
uh
kind of like has a Cold War vibe to it. There's a
yeah.
Klingon
Yeah.
assassination as kind of the core of the plot of the movie.
The one after the Shatner one.
The one after the Shatner one where
Yep.
they what does God need with a starship? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sick Undiscovered Country is a good one. It is.
Mhm. But that's all I got. I don't know. You got you want to add anything else about it?
Yeah, I got plenty to say about Star Trek. I'm not a Trekkie or a Trek fan or a Trekker. I don't know if they say Trekkie or Trekker these days, but I have seen all of Next Gen, and that's the extent of it. That's the only Star Trek show I've watched. I actually really want to watch Deep Space Nine because it, I believe, came either right after Next Gen or for a time was running parallel to it. They did have some cast crossover at a certain point. Um, Michael Dorn, I believe, actually, Worf, he actually has a role on Deep Space Nine. I really want to check that one out, especially because it's supposed to be a lot darker. Like I think it takes place during wartime or something, so it's a very, very, very different vibe from the more laid back, more optimistic vibes of Next Gen and the original show. But I can vouch for Next Gen. I think it's an excellent show. The common belief is that that first season is it's borderline skippable. It just things didn't coalesce the way the way they would eventually. It's almost like a sitcom in that way, where it's like it's not until season 2 and 3 where it's like it hits its stride and it becomes what it is remembered as. But that first season, I have seen many people say you might want to just skip it. Like you can do that because part of the charm of it, and I don't know if this extends to all of the Star Trek shows, but part of the charm and the beauty of it is that it's episodic television. It's it, like there's 2-part episodes every once in a while, but it's mostly Monster of the Week or Crisis of the Week storytelling. So it's like you put it on that week and you don't need anything else. You know the characters and what they're about, but it's not like these days with streaming shows where like everything plays into the next, plays into the next, plays into the next, and it, like puts that oppressive continuity on top of you. Like it puts the pressure of on you, the viewer. It's like no, you just put it on, and every episode is a new story, with the exception of the 2-parters and whatnot. And they have callbacks for sure, but at that point, you're probably already on board with the whole show. I would highly recommend Next Gen. I think it's excellent, and it's mostly just the characters, and also the tone. And for me personally, I can't speak for you, Brad, because you are a little bit younger than me. Um, the pace, the tone, the editing, the vibe of it is intensely nostalgic for me because it does so many things that you take for granted. It's pretty laid back for the most part. Like it's a kind of laid back, kind of chill show. Like it doesn't have the energy of the J.J. Abrams movies, where I know that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because J.J. Abrams has his rapid fire dialogue. He has lots of quippy stuff going on, but he loves to have people not do a walk and talk, but do a run and talk. Like
Mhm.
he loves to send people hurtling down hallways where the camera's doing this and they're like struggling to stay on their feet and they're like talking and quipping while they're addressing 3 crises at the same time. He does that in like all of his fucking movies: Mission Impossible, Star Trek, Star Wars, all of them. And the energy level is through the fucking roof. And it's great, it's exciting, but to me, it's like complete opposite of the vibe that appeals to me quite a lot in Next Gen in particular. Um, the Next Gen movies are very, very bad for the most part. First Contact is okay. Insurrection is real bad in that it also looks bad. Like it also looks cheap. And Nemesis is, aside from baby Tom Hardy, like the novelty factor of baby Tom Hardy playing opposite Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart. Like aside from that, it doesn't really have much going on. But the original show, like the original movies, like you said, the pattern is it's like the odd ones are, I think, the bad ones, and the even ones are the good ones. Although apparently the first one is kind of up for debate. Um, it has a very different vibe than the rest of those movies. It works for some people. It's too slow for most. Um, but yeah, Star Trek is like one of those things that curiously I'm more familiar with it than I ought to be, being as I've watched one show and a bunch of movies that do not represent the show at all. Because the next gen movies are not the show, like not
Oh
even a
yeah, I'm
little bit.
sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Also, just throwing it out there, Jonathan Frakes he's a pimp. I love Jonathan Frakes. I
Yeah.
think he's great. I could watch him all day. In fact, I do because on my Instagram feed, I mostly just get him asking me questions from his Fact or Fiction show or whatever. Especially in slow motion. You should look that up if you haven't seen it, Brad. Him slowed down asking you questions. It just sounds like some drunk rando on the street asking you, "Did you ever seen a man over 7 feet tall? Do you like to go wandering in the pale moonlight? Do you own a computer?"
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
I'll have to
It
check it
pops up
out.
on my Instagram like every fucking day. And I let
Wow.
it. I watch it every time. But yeah, apparently I have a lot to say about Star Trek without even really having much passion about it either. I've just seen it.
Yeah, I went through, it was a few years ago, and watched them all. And
I
I
did the
just
same thing after college.
yeah, and I think I looked. I think Nemesis was the one I rated the lowest. So there you go.
Yeah, Justin Lin, did he do Beyond?
Hmm.
Yeah, it felt like he did.
Yeah,
What did you think of that one? Because some people thought that was a rebound. Like they thought it was actually heading in an interesting direction that they would have cared to see more of. Because see, I'm in the camp where I actively disliked Into Darkness, but I think Kyle likes it. And uh, am I remembering right? Are you a fan of that one? Does that one work for you?
I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would rank them, the most recent trilogy, as they get progressively worse.
Oh, okay.
But I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
don't remember anything. I saw Beyond once, and that was it. So I really don't remember much from that.
yeah. Beyond was a red box rental for me. Like that's how much I cared. Was that it was like the middle of the night. I was walking home from a friend's house or something. It was like, what's at the red box? It's like, Idris Elba as an alien?
Oh,
Sure.
there you go. There you go.
Nice. I didn't know you owned all those. I don't own any Star Trek, like any.
Well, sometimes you have to own things that you don't care about just to balance everything out.
I mean, look at this. You think I care about all of this, Brad? It's not possible. It just can't be. There's gonna be
Yeah,
some shit. You can't love all your kids. It's just not done.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to call that the last pick because it's very late on your coast. So let's head to the speed round. So I'm going to ask you, Brad, would you care to go first or should I?
I mean, I feel like I usually go first, so I can do it. I can.
Okay. I'll try to keep mine quick. It never is. We call it the speed round. It's a running gag at this point. It's called the speed round, but it's probably going to be 20 minutes. Essentially, what's about to happen here, dear listeners, and hopefully viewers, all four of you, what we're going to do here is take our titles that we set aside for today's discussion but did not get to, and just kind of skim through them. So well, there's going to be commentary from both of us running, but we're not going to pause as we've been doing. So it's hopefully quick, maybe not, probably not. So Brad, I'm going to give you the single, and you can proceed to the speed round.
I actually still have a decent amount here too,
So
so
do I. So do
but
I.
I'll burn through them.
Okay.
Man of Steel. A lot of these I've only seen once, and this is another one. But there is a sequence in space, right? Am I wrong? Right?
There is. I mean,
Oh,
how the fuck does he get here, Brad? How does he get
true.
here? in
But
his
if it
penis
was,
ship. How does everybody leave Krypton in their penis ships?
if we have a scene on Krypton and then just a scene on Earth, we don't have anything, we don't show anything there, the travel, then I wouldn't count it. But there is the
Okay.
scene where he goes into space and he
Yeah,
does like the Christ pose, right?
yeah. They're outside of Earth's atmosphere at a certain point in that movie.
Yeah. All right. It counts. Um, I have
Professional
Guardian.
to the end, Brad.
I have
Professional.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2. 2 is on 4K. 1, I have the Steelbook with the awesome mix.
Not gonna lie, that's kind of sexy.
Yeah, this was really excited when I got this.
That's pretty cool. Santino, if you're still here, I'm guessing you're not. Did you just blow your wad?
Sell it for $100. I have this one. I don't totally remember if this fits, but I believe the opening shot is space with Virginia Madsen's floating head coming in, and that is
Yeah.
David Lynch's Dune in
Yes, it
4K.
is. The 4K, the
Um,
Arrow 4K, beautiful,
Beautiful, just great.
beautiful, beauty.
Kind of mentioned it earlier, but Ad Astra.
Oh, funny.
I have Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
The
Um,
opening sequence of that one I heard was really great, and then the rest of it sucked.
See, I liked it. I thought there was I don't remember what the opening was, but I thought there were a few good action scenes, and I liked a lot of the creature designs. I thought it was good, but I like what the classic thing, like 90% of directing is just casting.
Yeah.
Um, might be some of the worst casting. I think.
I was about to say Cara Delevingne. She has that weird thing going, but Dane DeHaan, I think he's on the bad list these days. Like I think it's been
Yeah,
proven he can't open a movie. Like
no,
you
not
just
at
you
all.
just can't give him a movie.
And sh- hang on. She she's great.
She's great.
Thumbs up. But I don't think she was great for this movie. He's not great for this movie, and he's just no peace and love. But not for this movie.
Peace and love, peace and love. I tell
He's
you,
been in
Brad.
some good
I
movies.
was at the gym. I was lifting weights with my friend. That's what we were saying before our reps. Peace and love, peace and love.
Absolutely, you gotta spread it, right?
Peace and love. Peace and love.
People probably thought we were fucked in the brain.
I've got Ridley Scott's The Martian. I really like this movie. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the girlfriend really liked it.
Great,
And
just crowd pleaser. Like just hitting all the right notes. Just fun. Just
I
good.
think I could be wrong, but the author who wrote the book, I think he has another film adaptation coming out with Ryan Gosling.
I
It's
do remember
the Hail
hearing
Mary
about that.
Project.
Is that what it is?
I could be wrong on the author, but that is a novel that the girlfriend read and she loved it. And
Yeah.
apparently, Ryan Gosling is the star of it. I don't know who's directing, but that's like her most anticipated as far as like movies and sci-fi go at the moment.
Oh yeah.
I think it's from the same author. I could be wrong.
This one I've only seen once, and I really don't remember if it fits this space theme. And I might have to buzz myself, but I'm just gonna throw it out there and say I don't know. I really don't remember, but I have Crawl.
I haven't seen it. That's a 80s sci-fi fantasy movie starring or not co-starring a very young Liam Neeson apparently.
True.
Yeah, I would love to see Kroll just to fill in that gap of knowledge. That and Willow. I haven't seen that one either.
I
Like
haven't seen Willow
my
either.
80s fantasy is kind of weak, honestly. Like my familiarity.
Yeah, Crawl, I remember really liking just like a lot of the production design, practical effects, makeup, like cool stuff there. But I don't remember enough to know if there's actually anything in space. There might actually
Yeah,
not be. So
I don't know. I can't vet that one.
all right, cool. Then I'm off the hook. This one obviously is in space. We got Gravity, which I think
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
Um,
Good one. Yeah.
I have Apollo 13.
Oh, I've been having an itch to rewatch that one recently.
Yeah, I have the 20th anniversary edition. Bought the Blu-ray never ended up watching it, and they came out with the 25th anniversary, I believe, on 4K. Shot myself in the foot there. I have a movie I haven't seen yet, but it is space for sure. I have from Vinegar Syndrome. I have Creature,
Oh fuck, Klaus
which
Kinski.
I keep wanting to watch this. I just maybe before Romulus. Maybe now's the time.
Yeah, that would be really fun to have that as a micro review.
Yeah. And then I have Spaceballs.
Yeah,
And
love
last but
Spaceballs.
not least, I don't. Surprisingly, my collection is quite thin for this one, but I do have Star Wars: Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Solo. And
That is an eclectic collection of Star Wars.
yeah, well, I mean, the original trilogy, I have the unedited DVD box set,
Mhm.
the theatrical. I don't keep those here. I keep those in a secure location. Not
Those are
here.
airtight drop.
Yes, yeah. Those are not to be disclosed where they are at. So those are not in my possession right now. And I just never upgraded the prequels from
Yeah.
DVD. So
Yeah.
this is what I got.
Interesting.
Sorry.
we have
Oh,
top men looking after those.
I
Top
do
men.
have Rogue One as well,
Okay.
but I didn't grab that one. But
That's fine. It's fine. Peace and love. Peace and love. I slip it in every chance I get, man. That in One Piece 1 year. Yeah. I don't own any Star Wars actually. Like
for real?
Yeah, I don't own any Star Wars. Like, I think I've just like super saturated myself with Star Wars too early in life, to the point that those movies just are they're here. Like I don't need
I
to.
get that. I get that.
Yeah, I own Indiana Jones. I love Indiana Jones. I could rewatch those anytime. But for some reason, Star Wars, I haven't felt compelled to own any of those.
That is surprising that you just don't own a Star. Like that's
And no,
what's surprising.
yeah, not even a Star Wars.
Wow.
It's actually, that does make a little bit of sense though, because it's like one of those things where it's like, do I really want to buy into this ecosystem? Because if I start, it's going to be a long road to get to the end of. It's going to be a lot of payola to get to the end of that one. So maybe it's like a self-preservation thing, where it's like I just don't want to fuck with Star Wars. So my turn for the speed round, and I'll try to be quick, being as again I know it's late. I have both of. I don't have the same Dune as Brad, but I have Denis Villeneuve's Dune and Dune Part 2.
Now, is there any scenes in space in those?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
Okay.
There's like I can confirm in the first one, when they go to Arrakis, there's the ship that looks like a giant like baleen whale or something into its gaping mouth. That's a shot that's outside of an atmosphere of a planet. So we do have a spaceship outside of an atmosphere. Cannot quite confirm on the second one though. Not positive. It's been a minute since I rewatched it. So I might get a buzzer. It may happen.
I'm gonna give you the light buzzer.
That's, I like that one.
Yeah.
The discreet buzzer. Avada and Avada 2 might actually be the same case. I don't remember if there's a space shot in the second one. Pretty sure there's in the first one, but not sure on that second one. Because there's people waking up from hypersleep in the first one.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, because I feel like maybe all of it takes place on Pandora in the second one. Although
We do
there's
see
that
Papa
opening.
Dragon wake up. Right?
Yeah, there's that opening bit where the humans return to the planet. Maybe we see an atmospheric like penetration or something. It's been a minute. I honestly don't remember.
You're pushing it, bud. You are pushing it.
And you can buzz me. You can buzz me.
I'll give you that.
Fuck. 2 buzzes. Working on it. Elysium. Okay
Definitely
movie.
counts.
Okay movie. Some of the coolest toys, but they don't do fucking shit with them. Just the aesthetic is cool. That's that. This movie is gun porn. That's all it is. The rest, it's not a very good narrative. Doesn't have very interesting characters. It just looks cool. John Carpenter's The Thing. We got a spaceship.
You are just
We got a spaceship.
barely. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
We got a spaceship. Fuck
And
off.
I always forget that shot is in there too. Like every time I watch that movie, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot this is the first shot of the movie."
Yeah. You can buzz me for these because I honestly don't remember. But remember, I didn't know the rules of today's episode until like we started recording. So the Venom movies. Also, I had an idea. I had an inkling that Santino was going to be here, so I wanted to appease the Santino.
That is a hardcore buzz.
Buzzes. I got buzzed. From Red Letter Media, the YouTube channel. Those guys from Wisconsin. Space Cop. There's scenes in space, Brad. Trust me. I know you haven't seen it.
Title alone, it counts.
Space Cop. Fuck off. I own Space Cop on Blu-ray and have enjoyed it. Screamers. This movie didn't work as well for me on a rewatch. We did do a full ass episode of it for catching up on cinema. Couldn't resist. Have you seen this one, Brad?
Screamers? No, the poster, the cover is like almost iconic for me. Like I've seen it so much, but I've never seen the movie.
What's funny is I've never seen this cover until I got this Blu-ray.
Really?
The
Am
cover
I something else?
The cover I knew when I was a kid, like the VHS that I rented when I was young, was yellow and had Peter Weller on it, and it didn't have a screaming woman on it, as far as I recall. Nor was it blue, and nor did it have the little children. Like the one I knew had Peter Weller in like a yellow coloration.
I must be thinking of something else. But I'm loving whatever this creature is.
I like Screamers. I think
I need to watch this. This looks awesome.
I think the concept and the sci-fi elements of it and some of the creature stuff is pretty neat. It's not a very good movie though. It just has neat ideas. I guess kind of similar to Elysium in that way, where it's like it has some serious weaknesses, but it does have like a thing or two in there that's like it's just kind of fun to noodle on a little bit. And I'm that kind of person. I can be okay watching a movie that only gives me a little bit. Like I don't need the whole picture to come together for me to get something out of it. Speaking of not very good movies, Outland, starring Sean Connery. This is a Peter Hyams movie. It's a space western. I forget which western it is like blatantly ripping off from. But interesting aesthetic, interesting vibe, very much a western in space, but the energy is it's too sleepy. It's just too sleepy is the problem. Looks great though. Looks like $1 million at times. Little Shop of Horrors, Mean Green Mother from Outer Space, and I'm bad. Hodorowski's Dune, the documentary about the making of the Dune that never was, or the attempt to make the Dune that never was. Just figured I'd put that in there. In Search of Tomorrow, this is a documentary, a 4-hour documentary about 80s sci-fi movies, many of which feature space elements. Dark City. Hopefully it's not too big of a spoiler for anyone out there who would care to see Dark City, but...
Oh, hang on. I've never seen Dark City.
Okay, well...
Not let me stop you right there, bud.
Okay. Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. Space Godzilla. It's a thing. It actually is. It's a real thing, Brad. Space Godzilla. Event Horizon. We talked about that actually. Paul W.S. Anderson. Starship Troopers on 4K. Love Starship Troopers. The Guyver features an alien spacesuit organism as the titular Guyver. The Fifth Element. Most of it takes place in space in some fashion, or at least a large part of the second act, or third act, maybe. Transformers the movie opens with shots of space. Quite a lot of it takes place in space. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the opening shots of it are of planetary migration of the titular Body Snatchers. Love those opening shots, by the way. Just kind of love that movie. Doom.
Yeah.
Is this an Andrew Bartkowiak movie? The chief engineer of what I like to call the Kung Fu Hip Hop Connection era of action cinema. Doom is. I have a soft spot for Doom. I don't think it's very good, but I saw it in the fucking theater with my friends, and it kind of worked.
I
It
kind of
kind of
like it
worked.
too, actually.
Yeah, it kind of worked.
The first person shooter sequence is pretty good.
Yeah, and the random fucking wire foo fist fight at the end of the movie that just comes out of nowhere. It's like, I mean, if you're gonna end a movie, I guess that's a way to do it. It's like we have The Rock, may as well make him throw hands at somebody. Um, Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal 2000 on DVD. Most of these animated films take place in space. Heavy Metal 2000 is not nearly as good as the original Heavy Metal, but I quite like the original Heavy Metal. And the last one I have here is two separate versions on DVD of Highlander 2. The Renegade version and the vanilla version. Do you know the story behind this, Brad? Why this counts as a space film?
I don't think so, no.
So the controversy was in the original cut of Highlander 2, there's a early twist in the movie where they reveal that the immortals, what the characters in these movies are not in fact mystical. They are space aliens who were exiled from some sort of embattled planet. And it's like one of those things where you're in the theater and you're just like, what? Like, what are we doing? So this renegade cut of the movie is like a whole ass fully released alternative cut of the movie that nixes any sort of dialogue or footage of the other planet. It regrounds the story in mysticism rather than sci-fi. It's
Oh,
a
that's
truly
interesting.
bizarre project. It's
Yeah.
really fascinating that like they made to appease the fan base. They made a whole ass alternative cut and gave it a fucking DVD release. Notoriously bad movie, no matter how you look at it though. Like it's that's what makes it even more interesting is that it's not a good movie in any version of it. Like there's like 3 different cuts of it and they're all bad. And yet they went to the trouble to make that many cuts of it. It's very strange.
Got to keep trying. You got to force feed it.
Got to do it. But yeah, that's all my space picks that I put aside anyway. So that concludes the speed round for this month's episode. So now comes the part where we're about to sign off. So I get to say, hey, Brad, thanks for joining me today, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was good. And, this might be one of the first times where it's like the majority or nearly all of your movies I had heard of before, which is, not usually you'll pull out one curveball that I'm like, huh? But most of those, I had heard of them on most of those.
Yeah, I was trying to pitch down the middle, like make it a conversation rather than me educating you about things you don't care about.
Well, I love that too. So don't let me stop you from doing that.
Okay. Well, before we go though, Brad, would you care to let our listeners and hopefully viewers know where they can find you and your very awesome podcast?
Yeah, so it's the Cinema Speak podcast. We're on social media on X or Twitter at the Cinema Speak. Instagram is Cinema Speak Podcast, and we're on YouTube as Cinema Speak. And you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, any of those platforms. And you can also just find us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
Very nice. And Inside Baseball, you got your Deadpool and Wolverine episode dropping tomorrow?
Absolutely. It is. There's going to be some hot takes dropped.
Hot takes.
Get ready.
Well, like I said, I know exactly what I'm doing with my morning, and if it is in fact 3 hours long, I don't care. I work from home. I can listen to that shit. It doesn't bother me.
Not quite 3 hours. Be a little under.
Oh, yeah. Santino's probably bummed about that. Okay, well, as for myself, if you'd like to catch up on any of our other Catching Up on Cinema content, you can find all of that collected on our website at catchinguponcinema.com. That is a bold-faced lie, being as that website has not functioned for some time, but it's part of the spiel, so I'm keeping it in. Anyway, if you'd like to reach us out to us on the social medias, you can find us on the Instagram at Catching Up on Cinema, as well as the Twitter/X at Catching Cinema. So feel free to hit me up at either of those. And the podcast is available on pretty much every platform you can imagine, including Bitcade. So fucking Google it. And that being said, thank you so much for listening and hopefully watching. And we'll catch you next time. Say bye, Brad.